Hey there fellow simmers! Today I come to you with a quick SimPe tutorial. For those of you who agree that dig for treasure interaction is freaking OP. While being iconic for many challenges and gameplay styles, it can break balance quite a bit. Imagine a mayor of an entire town who earns as much as a lowly bum with nothing but a shovel and a backyard. So today I'm gonna be showing you how you can personally modify that to your specific needs. To do that we will need first SimPe, then this awesome mod by Huge Lunatic, who's made this entire customization possible. The author had already created a text guide on the same topic, but to my personal liking it does seem a bit too concise. It took me quite a while to figure everything out, but if you feel confident with SimPe, definitely check it out. I don't think you'll have any problem with that. We'll also need some text editor. Anything will do, just a simple notepad is fine, just to copy and paste some text in and out of it. As for optional stuff, I highly advise you to use Pick and Mix Object Relocator. With it the whole process is a lot smoother and easier than just using SimPe only. We'll also need some custom content, unless you want to play some sort of Maxis match vanilla type of a game. I will personally be using Sun and Moon stuff, because some of the sets are simply perfect for this. And for testing purposes, I will also be using MicroTestX, because it comes with this handy feature of digging for stuff continuously. If you want to fine-tune some percentages, I suggest you do the same. So let's start by examining how the interaction works in Vanilla Sims 2. As you can see, I've loaded one of my test hoods. If you have Bon Voyage Expansion Pack and you click on the ground with a sim who is a teen or older than that, you will see the interaction called Dig for Treasure. So now if we click on it, the sim will go to the free ground spot, not necessarily that one that we clicked on. They'll take a shovel out of their butt and start digging. After some time, one of these things will happen. The sim will either strike a pipe that will pour water all around the whole place and you'll not be able to continue digging using this hole. This basically interrupts the whole process. Then the sim will be able to find a treasure chest that is worth a whopping 5,000 simoleons. The sim can also find one of 3 treasure maps, one to each vacation places, so one for Twiki Island, one for Takemitsu Village, and one for 3 lakes. Also, a sim can find one of 3 rocks, either small, medium, or big. Also, the sim can find a bone that is actually the Chewinator from the Pets expansion pack that has been recolored white. And finally, the sim can find an object from a predefined list of objects. By default, there are 26 of them, and you can right now see them on the screen. And I have absolutely no clue why these particular objects were selected. I mean, they have little to no connection to treasure hunting, they vary in prices, so clueless. And once found, all the objects can either be sold or placed somewhere on the lot. Now, if we download Huge Lunatic's mod and open it up in SimPe, we can find out just how often we can encounter each of these 6 scenarios. So this data is stored in tuning, find objects chances. So if you can see, just make sure that you have the plugin view available to you. It can be enabled in this window at the top. So if we choose one of these categories to the right, we'll be able to see the corresponding chance of encountering it to the left in the deck field. Thus, in vanilla game, there is a 10% chance of puncturing a water pipe. So 1 in 10 attempts to dig stuff up will result in this mess, which is why it's so freaking annoying for me personally, especially when I'm playing in a poor rural hood that is supposed to have no plumbing whatsoever. Then finding a treasure chest has only a 2% chance of happening. We have 15% for the maps, and since there are 3 of them, that means that every specific map, for instance one for the Twiki Island, has only a 5% chance of appearing. Then, rocks have 30%, and in the same way, each one of them, meaning small, medium and big, have only 10% chance. Bones have 30% as well, though there is no diversity here, so every one of them is just one Chewinator. And for all the catalog objects, we have 13% in total. That means that every separate item among those 26 has only a 3.8% chance of being found. Now that we know the mechanics behind this, let's modify the crap out of it. Since we're already here, let's start by modifying the chances of each of these scenarios happening. An important thing here to remember is that all the 6 categories must add up to 100%. If we add them all together, you can see that that's actually the case. The values can only come in whole numbers, no fractions allowed, and they start from 0 all the way up to 100. With 100, for instance, for a treasure chest, you can make it a guaranteed find every single time the sim digs stuff up. For the sake of this tutorial, I'll be replicating the stuff that I've done for playing in Serpent's Tail, and that is 0 chances for water pipe, because as I said, it makes no sense when you're just living in a poor rural area and there is no running water, at least underneath the ground. Treasure chest has 0% too, but in this particular case, it doesn't mean that I'm removing it from the game. In the next step, we'll be moving it to the list of catalog objects, and this will allow us to have a less than 1% chance of finding it. Then, maps have only 1% chance, and so while finding them is not impossible, this would truly mean something special, not just some mundane stuff to be sold at the pawn shop. As for rocks, they are considered to be like a trash item to clutter up my Sim's inventory, so I'll be putting 64% there. Bones are generally trash too, even though they do have like a practical use of being a toy for a dog, but it's not that important to me, so I've put 15% there. And as for the objects, I'm putting 20% of finding them. Now we are ready for the next step, which is burying a Maxis item in the ground, also known as adding the corresponding GUID of the item we want our Sims to be able to find to the list of findable objects. What a mouthful! I like burying more. This is the part where we will actually specify which of the Maxis items, and by that I mean the stuff that comes with the vanilla game, is eligible to be found while digging. And for that we need to open up a different resource file that is called GUID, list of findable objects. Make sure you're selecting the behavior constant and not that other one. The list is a bit weird and somewhat counterintuitive. So for one, the list starts with a 0, not 1. And this very line is very important. It serves like a separate function that we'll get to in a second. Then, if we scroll all the way down to the last line, we can see that there are actually 52 lines of values. That's because all of the GUIDs in here are divided into halves. The last 4 digits and then the first ones. For our purpose, that just means that every single object has 2 lines, not 1. And so, for instance, if we take this dramatically rearing horse here, its full GUID is like this, and it's stored here like this. That means that if we want to delete any object from here, we must remove both lines, just like that. And if we are adding anything instead, we must recreate the same structure. Now, let's delete everything from here. I don't like any of the stuff that comes by default. Like that. Remember to leave the first line. And then it's a good idea to load up the game and browse through the catalog to decide what we want to put in the ground. I've just loaded my test hood with a couple of test sims. So the first idea that came to my mind when I was thinking of what to add to the list is that by default we have these 3 rocks. These are the only ones that you can find while digging, but if we go to the decorative category here, we can see that there are actually 2 other rocks. We have this one, which is called Deluxe Small Rock, and we also have this Premium Large Rock. So why don't we put these 2 into the list too, so that the whole set of 5 rocks to be found while digging. Then while I was browsing, I also found these plants that came with Bon Voyage 2, I believe. So these are Big Pond Seaweed, and while it does say that these are seaweed, I think that they look exactly like any roots that you can find in the ground. And as for the rest, as much as I was looking from the catalog, I did not find anything else that would look organically in the ground. Now that we know what objects we want to put in there, let's load up SimPe once again and find the GUIDs for them. There are several ways to look the GUID up. I'll be showing you 2 of my personal favorites. The first one requires us to go to the Object Workshop tab here at the bottom. Once we click the Start button, the game will load for some time because it's looking through all the objects that the game has. And once it's done loading, we can see the entirety of the objects divided into these handy categories. Let's start with the seaweed. So remember that they are located in decorative plants. So if we open up this category, here they are. They're called Big Pond Peddler, Seaweed, Seaweed, and Seaweed. Yeah, these 3. Unfortunately, the majority of objects have like a goofy name. It's always a good idea to first look up the name in the catalog, and then only look for it in this list, because it can be pretty unwieldy. Now that we found actually the bead, let's select it, press the next button. We'll be forwarded to this part here. We can either clone or recolor. We need clone. And then we can uncheck some of the settings here. This will speed up the loading a bit and skip some of the unnecessary steps. Feel free to recreate what I have in here. Let's press start. We've been forwarded here. And in this list of files, what we need is this object data resource file. It can easily be spotted by the distinctive yellow icon. Now let's select this one that has nothing after the dash. And we need to go to the plugin view tab. And there we have it, the GUID for the seaweed. Now let's copy that bad boy, and we need to temporarily place it in some text editor. That's why I mentioned that we need it. So I'll be using this handy sticky note app, but you can use anything from Notepad to Microsoft Word. Now that's done. Let's go for the next one. So to do that, let's go once again to Object Workshop, press Start Over. One start. Since we haven't closed SimPe since then, it loads instantly, which is pretty good. The next one in the list is Seaweed Jumbo. Just like before, press Next, clone, start. We don't need to save that, anything to that package. Object Data Seaweed Large, go to Plugin View, and that's the second GUID that we need. Once again, I copy it and paste it here. Object Workshop, Start Over, Start, and let's take the third one. That's it. Next, clone, don't save anything. Here is the seaweed small, plugin view, and the third GUID for the weed. Nice. Let's go for the two rocks. Just as before, we press start over. They are located in decorative, but this time it's not plants, but are rather miscellaneous. One of them was called the deluxe small rock, so it will be located here under the D letter. Again, let's press next, clone, and here it is. Now, if you've ever watched any other tutorial that touched upon editing the object data, you may have heard that you just need to choose the one that has nothing after the dash and you're good to go. That is true for the most part, but in this particular case, what we need is actually this second file that says BV, which stands for Bon Voyage. If we check, we can see that they have different GUIDs. Because if we select this first one, we'll get the same texture as for the rock that comes by default from digging up. So instead, let's choose this one, copy it, and paste it like this. So I'll separate to know which one is which. That's done. Once again, let's go to Object Workshop, Start Over, Start, and let's scroll now to the Premium Large Rock. Here it is, Premium Large Rock. Next, Start. Don't need to save anything. In the same way, we need to select Rock Large BV, Plugin View, copy the GUID, and we're done. That's the second rock that we need. Now, there is one more item that we need to add, and that is the treasure chest that I removed from the list by default. And the thing is that the chest is not located anywhere in the default catalog. So to find it, it may be actually easier for us to disable this category list. So we can do that by pressing the catalog button here. Yeah, that now creates this single list of all the items sorted alphabetically. Sometimes it is way easier to find an object like this if you know the name of it. Luckily, treasure chest is called exactly that, so we can scroll all the way to T and we should be able to find it there. Here it is, treasure chest. In the same way, we press next, clone, don't save anything, treasure chest object data file, go to plugin view, the GUID for the treasure chest. Perfect. Now, while we are here, we can actually make some modifications to the code that we've just extracted to save us some time when we will be pasting them to the mod. So for one, we can delete this 0x at the beginning. We won't need it. And then, since we will need to divide these GUIDs into halves, I suggest we put this cursor in the middle and press tab to divide them into halves like that. And I'm using tab and not space, for instance, because if we press space, once I double click that, it includes space too, which can cause some issues when we'll be pasting it to the mod. So that's why I suggest you use tab instead. When you double click, it'll select only the 4 digits that we need. Now, this is the first method that I've shown you, which includes SimPe, but there is an alternative one. Normally it is used for custom content items, but it can actually be used for vanilla ones as well. And that includes using object relocator by pick and mix. So to be able to look up through the files that come by default, we need to navigate to the folder that has your game installed. So in my case, that's The Sims 2 18-in-1. And then we need to find the object folder that's located at TS data, res, and here it is, objects folder. If we open up this folder in a separate window, we can see that it contains the objects package. That's what we need. So let's close that one and just select the objects folder. Again, this is gonna take some time to load, and since the app is not normally used for stuff like that, it is a bit laggy, but it comes with a couple of handy features that might help you to find the objects a lot quicker. So let's just wait for the app to load. And here we go. As you can see, the list is pretty huge, judging by this scroll bar here, because it contains all the items in the game, including the catalog objects, as well as some stuff that is like accessories and some tokens. So it can be a bit laggy to browse through that, but it does come with a couple of handy features. So by default, you can see that GUID is not visible. So to enable it, we need to go to Options and press Show GUID. And then we can use any of these columns to sort the list. So let's, for instance, go and find the treasure chest using this method. So I've just sorted by the title, and let's see where the T is located. And there it is. We can see the treasure chest, and right beside it we have even the treasure map. While this whole row is selected, we can just press Ctrl-C to copy, and if we now press Ctrl-V, we'll get everything selected. It even comes with the handy title for us. So if we want to, be organized in here. So as you can see, it's exactly the same as we have here. This method does have its disadvantages as well as advantages, but it's always good to have an alternative. Perfect. Now we have the complete list of 6 objects. So these are 3 seaweed, then 2 rocks, and the treasure chest. Let's add that to the list in the mod. As I mentioned before, we need to recreate the same structure, and that's why we've divided them into halves. Because we're gonna be creating 2 values for each of the objects. So to do that, let's press Add Value twice. And while we have the last line selected, let's select the first 4 digits of GUID of the seaweed. We copy it, and we need to place it in the hex field here. And there we have it. We've just added the item to the list. Every time we make some changes, we need to make sure that we commit file to save the changes. As you can see, it has added this label by default. And the list of labels is actually stored in a different file. It's located in the list of findable objects, but trcn. That's the list of all the labels that we have. As I understand, the only purpose of these labels are just for you to make sense of like which GUID is which. So if they are a bit confusing and they're just in the way, what you can do is simply delete all of them. As far as I understand, that does not affect anything game-wise. It's just for your convenience when you're working with them in the SimPe. So let's commit file. Now if we go back to the list, we can see that there is nothing on the label, which is a lot more cleaner. Now let's go and add the second one. So once again, I'll be pressing Add Value twice. While the last one is selected, I'm copying the first 4 digits, pasting them into the hex. Then I'm copying the last 4 digits and pasting them in here. Just like so. Then as for the third seaweed, same thing, add value twice, select first digits, paste them here, select last 4 digits and paste them here. 3 weeds are done. Let's move on to add in the rocks the same way. The process might seem a bit tedious, and it kind of is, but if you prepare everything, it's a lot less painful than one might think it is. So now as for the last item, which is our treasure chest, let's put its GUID here. As you can see, SimPe automatically added this 0x to the beginning, so that's totally normal. That is intended to be like that. And believe it or not, we're almost done with the modification. The only last thing that we need to do is to go to the first line. Remember, I said that it's very important. The reason for that is that this line stores the number that represents how many lines there are in total. And that's why we needed to edit it last, only once the list has actually been created by us. So working with it is pretty simple. All we need to do is just look up what number is stated here in the last line here, which is 12 in our case, and simply add that value into the decimal field under the hex. Once again, let's press commit file. Now we can save all the changes that we made, go back to the folder that we were working in, and put this stuff into the downloads folder. So let's copy that. I've just put it in here. Now let's load the game and test how it's working now. Alrighty, so we are here in the game. As you can see, this sim has nothing in her inventory. And to check everything efficiently, let me use the macrotestics dig for stuff interaction. And I will also put in a couple of cheats, one of them being max motives, even though she already has them maxed out. And I will also remove the decay of the motive. So motive decay off. That's just gonna make this whole test a lot more smoother. Alright, now we have the map, which is like 1 in 100 chance of being found. Let's open up her inventory and see what we've got. So we have this Rocky the Rock. That's the one that comes by default. Perfect. Then we also have the Skippy the Stone. That's the small stone by default. We have the bones. We also managed to get some treasure chests. Nice. Then we have Greta the Granite. That's the big stone. And we have the premium large rock. That's it. The only thing that we haven't got is this small rock. Let's run the game a bit more so that we can be sure that we can find it as well. So every item in the list has around 16.6% of being found. If we now divide that by 100 and we multiply that by 1.2, we can see that every item in the catalog objects have roughly 3% chance of being found. That is why we are not getting that small rock as frequently as we might expect, but still it is possible to find it. I think that's it, right? Deluxe small rock. Let's see. Yeah, that's it. So now our sims are able to find all the 5 rocks that exist in the vanilla game. Perfect. And as you can see, of course, we also got the seaweed here. So that's the big one, that is the 1 tile one, and the 2 tile one as well. And throughout this whole time, she even managed to find the 1% map. One to the hidden barrow, and one to the pagoda in the shadows. Now, as for the treasure chest, I want the treasure chest to be a very rare occasion and thus rather meaningful. The only way that you can make an object have a less than 1% chance is by putting it into the catalog objects, which is why we've done this thing, and to populate it with some other items. So depending on what you've put into the percentage for the entire category, you'll need more or less objects to have in total. So now I suggest we populate this entire catalog object list with a lot of CC objects. The funny thing is that adding CC objects is a lot easier than the Maxis ones, because they usually come in separate packages and are very easy to navigate. And so for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be using some of the sun and moon stuff. Some of the objects there are simply perfect for this. Let's go ahead and download everything. So now everything is downloaded. We have mining, we have barnyard bash and refining. Let's go ahead and extract the files. So for that I have a special temporary folder. One quick tip for you if you're using the WinRAR application is if you go to the advanced tab, you can check the do not extract option here. So what this will do, let me just show you. If we go to the folder right now, you can see that all the objects have been extracted as is. If we check the archive itself, you can see that it has all these folders. And so it's very easy to use this handy feature when you know that there is a lot of folders going on there. So perfect, now they're all in the temporary folder. Let's load up our object relocator and select that folder. And I'm using object relocator because it is way easier to use it when you are dealing with some custom content that doesn't have much objects. So as you can see, it loaded up all the stuff that came with the 3 sets, and there are quite a few of the items here. Luckily, all the items that I want to add have roughly the same price. So that's what I'm gonna be using to sort the list. So I'll just press the price, and now it just goes in ascending order from 0 all the way to 32,000. Jesus. The very first things that come in here are the done things that are part of the Barnyard Bash set. Another awesome feature of this application is that you can actually select multiple files like that. So that seems to be everything. And now if I just press Ctrl+C to copy and then go back to the Simple Note application, I can just press Ctrl+V to paste it, and it copies everything in just one go. Pretty handy. The other thing that I want to put is all these buckets that we can find. One of them is being bucket of charcoal and a bucket of sand, also very good one. And the rest of the buckets come at the price of 25 simoleons. So all of them are pretty much located here, right? Yes. So I will be selecting it like that. Control C to copy, and I'm pasting it to the temporary text editor. Well, quite a lot of files already. And the last thing that I want to add is some stuff, you know, for the expensive things. So in this case, this is gonna include the, where is that? The cut rocks that come here. So we have cut amethyst, we have cut opal, and I'll be adding those. Actually, let me just switch to title and look for them like this. Yeah, we have cut amethyst, cut diamond, cut emerald, cut jade, opal, and ruby, and yeah, so all of these. So sometimes it is easier to switch between different methods depending on what objects you are browsing through. Let's then replace them like this. Alright, so as you can see, we have quite a few objects now in the list. Let's now tidy up this whole list so that it's easier to work with later on. Once again, if you want to be organized and put all the corresponding labels to the mod file, this is where you would want to do that, because you can see the title of the file and you can see the corresponding GUID. But since I'm lazy about that, I'll just be deleting it all together. Whew, alright, perfect. A tidy, neat list of all the GUIDs divided into halves. Now we need to go back to the mods and put all of these manually in here. Holy crap, of course. The process is exactly the same, nothing is different. So I'm just copy pasting the first 4 digits and then the last 4 digits. Just the tedious part is that there are just so many of them. But anyway, with some time and some good music, you can do that pretty quickly and pretty easily. And here is the last one. Oh my god, I'm done with that. So as you can see, all the objects have been added. So now, since we have a lot more objects in here, we also need to modify the very first line of the code. So we can see that we have 90 objects in total. So I'll just need to go here, press 90, and then commit the file. And now, of course, to be able to check everything, I need to put this new modified mod, as well as all the rest, into my downloads folder. Once I do that, we can just load up the game and test everything out. Alright, so we are back here. Let me go quickly and remove everything from her inventory that she has, so that we have a clear picture of what she finds. Then, once again, I'm gonna tell her macro, dig for stuff. Let's run the game for some time to see what she gets. As you can see, we already got some of the custom content stuff, which is the hella droppings. But again, because of the percentages that we've set, we receive a lot more rocks as well as bones. And there's the bucket that we put here and there too. Nice, that tells me that it's working just fine. And another way I can tell that everything is working fine is that the interaction is not being interrupted. Because if you make a mistake, for instance, with editing the first line of the list, the game will not be able to find the line of the code that it's trying to reference. And so you might receive an error which will reset the character. So you gotta be careful about that. Oh wow, we've even managed to find another treasure chest. That's so cool. So right now we have 45 separate objects in the list of findable objects, and that tells me that every single one of those has what? So 100 divided by 45 is 2. So 2% chance, again divided by 100, and we now multiply that by 0.2. So every separate object that we have in the catalog has a less than 0.5% chance to be found. So alright, I think that's enough. Let's go into her inventory and see what she's got. So as you can see, of course, she's got a lot and a lot of stones, because like 64% is a pretty huge deal. 10 bones, so which is nice. So 2 hella drop-ins, again that's the CC dung that we've put there, some buckets of ores, only one of these deluxe small rocks. Again, this is meant to be just a clutter object, so I don't really mind that it occurs a lot less often than, you know, these ones. All these different buckets in here, also some cut gemstones, some geodes that also come with the mining set, we even managed to find one treasure chest. So keep in mind that we've been running this non-stop for like what? More than a day. Her needs were not dropping at all. So this is not how you would normally run your game if you're just regularly playing. So finding a chest will really be a very rare thing to encounter. But as for the rest, I'm pretty satisfied with the way it works. We did not get any errors. Everything seems to be working just fine. The only problem that I have though is that if we try and sell everything here, so we can see that this bucket of gold ore costs 25 simoleons. Dung is of course priceless. Then cut diamonds are more or less valuable because they go for whopping 500 simoleons. But if we go to the default items, so we can see that the Chewinator, for instance, costs 55 simoleons. So that's like the price of 2 buckets of gold ore. So that is not something that is very realistic to me. And so, you know, with the default items, it doesn't take much for you to become a millionaire just in a second. So the prices are very overpowered to me that they are. Rocky the rock costs 50. And let me see, do we have the big rock here? No, I don't think we do. But anyway, so you get my point. The prices here are a bit crazy when it comes to the default items. So as for our next, and actually last step, let's go and modify the prices. When it comes to modifying the prices, what we are editing is actually the objects package, like the one here in the Bon Voyage folder. But it's a terrible idea to be directly editing it. So you never want to do anything like that with the original file itself. Instead, I'll be showing you how to extract the necessary values into a separate package. This way we can then easily edit it, do whatever we want with it, and if anything goes wrong, we can always go back to the original state. The process itself will be familiar to you, because once again we will be looking for the object data file that is tied to the specific items that we have in the game. So let's start with the seaweed. As you remember, it's located under decorative plants, and here we go. 3 big pond peddlers. Once again, we're pressing next, then clone the object. We're transferred here. We need the object data file, but instead of looking into the plugin view, let's press with the right mouse button and select extract. So I will extract it to some temporary folder. It can be whatever you want. Mine is called temp and it's located on the desktop. And just like so, if we go to the folder itself, we can see that we've just extracted 2 files. Perfect. The name that is not that important, you can leave it as is. So let's do the same for the other 2 pieces of seaweed. Right, now seaweed is done. Let's go to the miscellaneous category that stores our rocks. That is deluxe small rock. We press next. Clone. No. But this time we will have to extract both of these files because one of them belongs to the original texture, that would be this one, and the other one is the texture that we can find under the miscellaneous tab. So that's the smallest one. So let's extract the first one, let's extract the second one, and we shall do the same for the premium rock. So premium large rock. Right, great. So the catalog rocks have been extracted. The next thing we want to find is the other rocks, you know, the ones that come with the instruction itself. To be able to find them, I will disable the catalog categorization, and they are called like many other objects in a funny way. So for instance, one of them is definitely Skippy the Stone, I believe. Yep, that's the one. Skippy the Stone. We also have Rocky the Rock. That would be the medium one. Yeah, that's the one. And the largest one is called Greta the Granite. So let's go all the way up to G. Greta the Granite, that's the one. Then we also have the 3 maps. For some reason, these are divided into 4 separate objects. So one of them is called the treasure map, exactly that. So let's see where we have it. So under the... Oh, wait, it's without D. It's simply treasure map without the article. Yeah, here we go. But it's not the one that is responsible for the items that you find while digging. So we need to start over and look for the 3 separate maps for each of the vacation places. And those are located under M. Map to Mysterious Hut, Map to Pagoda, and Map to the Hidden Burrow. Maps are now done. Then the next item is the bone. I mentioned that it's supposed to be the same as the Chewinator, and it kind of makes you believe that because the title is the same, the Chewinator. But it has a separate object that has a different GUID. So if we want to change the price for that, what we need is the old bone object here, and not the Chewinator. Now that we have all those files in a separate folder, let's go back to our downloads folder that we have somewhere in here. Yes, so dig my tweaks. And what we can do is we can add all those resource files to this package file. This way, both the percentages and the prices will be just in one package file. I think that's much more convenient. So we need to press add, select all of them and open them up. So as you can see, we've created a separate folder here that stores all the object data, and there are 15 of them. So let's do them by title, starting off with maps. So because I've changed the maps to be very rare things to find, I think it would be best to actually boost their price a bit. To be able to edit that, we need to go to the plugin view, so select the map, and in here we need the raw data tab. So you can see we have a whole section here that's called catalog price. By default it's set to hexadecimal number, which is not something that we humans easily understand. Instead I suggest we switch it to decimal, that way we can actually see the price in simoleons. By default it is 400, and I think it would make more sense to be something like 1000. With just 1% of occurring. So as I understand, the first one is the price for which you can buy it, and the next one is the price that will be set if you decide to put this item on sale, like in a private business lot like I have with my Alfred and Serpent's Tail. The last four values are used to configure how much the price changes because of time. You know, when you place an object, after some time it's gonna cost less. So these four values define how much that is. We cannot delete them, we need to press set them to 0. I think it will be much easier this way. So if you buy it for 1000, you can then sell it for 1000. So press commit to save the change that we just made, and do the same for the remaining two maps. So this one will be 1000, 1000, and zeros here. The last one is the same. Commit. Then this paint and treasure map, again, I'm not sure where it is located and where the object is like that, but anyway, just to be sure, I will change this to 1002, just to be on the safe side. Next comes the pet toy bone, which is basically a clutter object, so I don't want it to cost anything more than just 5 simoleons. That's enough for me. Then we have the seaweed, and as we can see, they come in 3 sizes. I want the smallest one to cost the least, so that would be just 1 simoleon. Seaweed, let's make it 2 simoleons. The last one, the 3-tile seaweed, will be 3 simoleons. Then we can see that the rocks that come by default are the ones that have this digging next to them. So the biggest one would be the rock large, and I want them to be just 5 simoleons. That's it. The rest again is gonna be set to 0. Let's commit. Then the medium one is 3rd in size, so I will make it 3 simoleons. Rock small is actually 2nd in size, so it's gonna cost 2 simoleons. Rock large, that's actually the same as Greta, so that's gonna be 5 simoleons. Rock large Bon Voyage, that's the one that's next to Greta, and it should be 4 simoleons. Rock small without Bon Voyage is the same as the Skip the Stone, so that would be 2 simoleons. And the last one, the smallest rock that we can find, is rock small Bon Voyage. That's gonna cost only 1 simoleon. Commit. Right, perfect. Now we can press save. One important note that I must make is that if you are using this ZCEP extra files, some of them can actually include garden rocks. And since they are meant to be loaded after all the other files, that's why they have the Z in the beginning of the name, they will overwrite all the values that you've just entered. So to correct that, we can just either delete the whole file itself, though then you'll not have any CEP extras, or you can just open up the file itself and modify the object data files that are inside of it. The procedure is exactly the same. You just go in here and change the values that we have for the prices. I've already done that, so you can see it says here 1 for the small rock and 4 for the large rock. And if you encounter any inconsistency while testing this out yourself, just Try and think of any other object data files that might be overwriting the ones that we have in the downloads folder, because that's often the case. Now, having edited the CEP extra file, let's load up the game and see if we've changed the prices. Unfortunately, you'll not be able to see the effect of this change on the objects that have already been placed on the lot. So if we take a look at these ones that we have here, so all the rocks as well as the weeds, you can see that it still sells for 20, this one for 28, this one is 8. All the rocks also have the same old price. But if we go ahead and look into her inventory, which is empty at the moment, so let's make her dig for some time. So for instance, she just found the rock, we just keep it a stone, and we delete it now, it only costs 2 simoleons, exactly what we set it to be. To make sure that everything else is correct, let's make her dig for the rest of this stuff, and see if this has taken up the change. So we can now have also the seaweed. This one costs 1 simoleon, perfect. Then we have Rocky the Rock, right? Yes, we can see that it costs only 3 simoleons. Whoa, she now got 2 maps in a row, and each one of those costs 1000. Great. Another seaweed, this time it's the 3-tile one, it costs 3 simoleons. Nice. Oh, and the big rock. The big rock is supposed to cost 4 simoleons, and it costs 4 simoleons. The Greta is 5 simoleons. Now let's just find the bone, and that's it. So with the bone, we shall call this experiment successful. It's supposed to cost 5 simoleons, and it does. And now on to the final part that will show us what we have accomplished. We will be running 6 tests in total, 3 for the vanilla game at the top and 3 for the mod that we just created at the bottom. So all of these clips will run for exactly 1 day, from 12 PM to 12 PM. Once again, I'm using macrotestics as well as some cheats, so the environment here is purely experimental. The real game will differ quite significantly, and we'll see how much each of the tests will give us in terms of money. It turns out that the vanilla game after 3 runs gives us on average 11.6 thousand simoleons, while the modified version gives us 6.10, which is almost 50% reduction in profit. Of course, this will vary a lot in the real game, but still, if we take everything into account, it's a pretty significant change. That's pretty much it for today, guys. I hope this video was at least somewhat useful to you, and you will try and customize digging for treasures to make your own gameplay better. I would love to hear what sort of items you decide to put in the ground and what other tweaks you come up with. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'll gladly reply to the best of my knowledge. Though please do keep in mind that I'm very much noob when it comes to modding, so I may not know everything. Still, I'll do my best. And if you're not that keen on messing around with SimPe, object packages and stuff like that, I will of course be posting this file that I've created today on Mod The Sims, so you can download it for yourself. Simply put it in the downloads folder, and you should get the same results as I did, especially if you take into account some of the remarks that I've made throughout the video. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, good luck, and see ya!